Okay, so to make a mini mermaid journal, you're going to need a pre-made book and mine is blank, but I'm sure you can find some that have lined paper in them. The important thing is it must be hardcover, like not soft. And I go with these ones. You can get them at Walmart because I think that they kind of hold the glue better. Then you're going to need 2mm EVA foam, which is just craft foam basically. You can get that literally anywhere. Then you're gonna need foam clay, and I just buy Lumens. I know there's like a ton of different brands out there. And you're gonna need flexbond to prime your book later. This, you might be able to use a different primer. It's just that's my preferred go-to one, and I'll explain why I prefer that one. And of course, you're gonna need your mermaid colored paints. I like to go with metallic paints. Some of these are from Walmart, some are from Michael's, and some are from Hobby Lobby, so you can get them in a lot of places. So first up, I'm measuring my book, and I believe it's like 26 or 28 millimeters or something. The main thing here is you don't want to catch the joint, which is where that little crease is, because you don't want to stop your book being able to open up. And I just used a triangle ruler because I felt that that gave me a really easy way of figuring out my lines. And you're just going to mark your measurements on your 2mm foam, and then you'll cut them out. And now I'm just kind of making sure it fits my book well, like that it's not overlapping the edges or anything. It's okay if it overlaps a little bit. And now we get to the fun part, so grab a little bit of water and your foam clay. And I did forget to mention this earlier, but I do have like this sculpting tool. It's actually for clay, regular clay, but you don't need this per se. You just need something that has a sharp point. I just like this tool because it's slightly curved, which helps me get kind of in there better, especially when we're going for scales. And it's not really super hard to sculpt this. You're just going to want to make balls that are about 6mm in roughly diameter. Now if you're going for bigger scales, you might want bigger little foam balls, but I didn't want to go too crazy. And since I'm using, I admit I was actually using kind of drier foam clay. Like, I know I showed a tub of brand new stuff, but I still had my old stuff to go through. So I have to wet my my EVA foam pad first to kind of help me get these on. And I just press it in like the palm of my hand right in the center, and just pressed it down with my thumb or to kind of help me get a sort of circular shape. And it's really hard to see in the footage, but I smooth out the top, because remember, you're gonna layer your scales, so you're not gonna see the top of your scales, and that's gonna be a really good anchor for the scale so it doesn't peel off while you're working with it. And the thing to remember when doing scales is you work from the bottom up. And there's totally so many different designs out there for scales. I don't know if you saw earlier, I had my phone with like this mermaid scale wallpaper up as inspiration. There's tons of design ideas and stuff. So just carve those into your foam. And I actually end up not liking this design because I did a little curved part at the bottom, and I realized I actually didn't like the look of that later on, so I never do it again. But again, like I said, just press it down in the center of your palm with your thumb. And because mermaid scales, I find, are depicted usually as very round. Because if you do like a pointier one, you're going to get something that looks more like dragony scales, sort of. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It is your design. But this was just my preference, and I wanted it to look more like what we see classically. And here's a closer up of how I'm kind of smushing that top of the scale down. And like I said, it's just really good anchoring. You can do the sides a bit, but make sure to keep your curved edges because you will see the sides of your scale. And the design is super easy. Just draw a straight line down the middle and then more curved lines on the side, kind of swooping towards the middle. And it's easy, but so effective, especially once you're going to do all your scales like that. And I admit, I have terrible lighting through most of this video because it's been so overcast. And so I'm just relying on like mostly artificial lighting. So whoopsies. So yeah, we're full bottom layer. And then, like I said, the most important part, you start down, work up. Because you're going to have to layer your scales. I know that might seem like oh no, duh. But you know, it's important to remember. And here's where I was fixing that first scale to get rid of it. And that's the great thing about foam clay. As long as it's not left out too long to dry, you can just get it really, really get your finger wet and then smush it a bit to get rid of any details you put on it. Or like if you get fingerprint fingerprint marks on it, or just any other unwanted blemish on your foam clay. And I wasn't super particular about like the width of my scales all being equal because, that makes them look more natural. Okay, so like I said, now we're starting on the second layer, and what you're going to do is you're going to put your top layer so that the center of the scale is in between where the two bottom scales meet. I don't know if that makes sense. That's why I filmed it, so because seeing it is sometimes better than trying to describe it to someone. But just basically you want your top scales to be off-centered. I think that's the word, off-centered from your lower scales. And like I said, you can make bigger scales, smaller scales, however you want to do it. I went for this size because I just felt like it looked good with the size of the little journal. So. And I mean, it's hard for me to classify this as like a beginner craft project because a lot of us don't have foam clay lying around. But I definitely would, if you've just gotten foam clay and you haven't used it, you're nervous, this is a great first project to really get to play with it. We interrupt this program for a cat interruption. I repeat, a cat interruption, Mushu. Look at him. Look at him. He's just pretending like he's totally not naughty. Say hi, Mushu. You're such a ham. Oh my god. Okay, I can finally get back to work now. So as you can see, I've done another row, I think, that I didn't film. If I filmed doing absolutely every row, I would probably bore you guys to death. So I'm just trying to keep this kind of quick. And as you can see, I am sort of deviating from the line, but that's okay because in the long run, it'll make it look more natural. And if you went line, row, row, line, row, row, you kind of break the idea of it looking, it starts looking too much unnatural because your eye picks up on that design. I don't know if that's like really hard to explain, but now I want to talk about why I pick foam clay over clay. So, and I don't think you could do this project with clay. Now, I think there is one type of clay that's supposed to be really lightweight. You might be able to do it with that. I've never used it. I've seen other people use it, but I can't remember what it's called. But the reason foam clay is great here is because it sticks to other foam really, really well with no glue or anything. And I don't know if clay would do that. The other, and this is my big reason, is because it dries so lightweight. And here it is dried. You can see it kind of curls up that foam. And this is important to keep in mind. This is why we do not do it directly onto the book. So now you're going to grab your contact cement glue, which I forgot to mention earlier in products that you need. I don't recommend any other glue. I recommend this glue because it lasts. And you're just going to put a very thin layer onto your book surface, and then you'll put a thin layer onto the back of your foam pad. And you don't even have to worry about uncurling your foam pad because the book and the glue's gonna flatten it. But if you wanted to, you could hit it with a heat gun or probably even a hairdryer and uncurl the edges, which I usually do with my bigger projects, but this one, it just seemed like an unnecessary step to take. So then you just wait for your glue to dry and get tacky and put it together and smush it down. I mean, really press it down. But look, it's totally flattened that foam pad. So now we're going to prime it, and I'm using, as I said earlier, my flexbond. I water mine down because A, it's expensive and it will go so much further if you water it down, and B, I can not really use it not watered down because it's just too thick. So this is always a preference. And the reason I use this as my primer is A, it's much more controllable over a spray primer, and B, it is an adhesive, so it also helps kind of glue the scales even more so into place. And then C, and this is the really important part, makes it really rock hard, like when it's dried. That's what I was kind of trying to show, but it's hard to show on camera. So now for the painting, I'm going to start with my darkest prime color, which is going to just be that metallic dark blue. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint my scales. Basically, I did 3 coats of this to get a nice look. And unfortunately, these metallic paints look amazing in person, but I don't know if they look super great in camera, but I do highly recommend them. And what I've done, and I skipped it, was I actually painted a few random scales the dark green. And this footage is almost worthless right here because you can't even tell because they're so shiny. But I went over with the light teal blue and then the light green to highlight the edging of my scales, which, like I said, you can't even see it. But it is important in the end. Now, mixed basically black with my dark blue, and this is so important. This is your shadowing. More important probably than highlighting. And I'm just going to paint that in all of those detailed marks that I made. And I also paint it sort of like where the underlip of the top scale is over the bottom scale to make a shadow there. But I think this is just so important because it really makes all the details pop in your scales. And here it is, and yeah, it just looks so much better with all the dark shadows in it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Alright, bye.